Are you curious about how the conflict in the Ukraine is going to affect the housing market and real estate in the United States and specifically in Colorado? Well, you've come to the right place. My name is Landon. I'm the marketing manager and an associate broker with Mod Estate. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how this crazy war and this craziness that's going on in Eastern Europe is going to affect housing prices, the housing market, and real estate trends. So stay tuned. I know that some people have been predicting for the last few months that Russia was indeed going to invade Ukraine, and that is exactly what happened last week. I don't know about you, but I have been glued to YouTube. I've been glued to the TV trying to see what is going to happen next. And as I am very active in the real estate industry, of course, it's my job, it's what I do, I have been very curious about what is going to happen with the housing market. How is this conflict in the Ukraine going to translate to the United States and housing prices and real estate in general? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. The first thing that I'd like to point out is one thing that you, myself, and everybody who's curious about how this is going to affect real estate needs to pay very close attention to the stock market. Now, real estate as an asset is much more stable than the stock market. However, if you pay attention to the stock market, there's very likely going to be some tells of how the real estate market is going to be affected by this conflict. If there are dramatic changes to the stock market, big drops, we're likely going to see that affect the real estate and housing markets within, a month or so after. One thing to keep in mind is that real estate is affected much slower than the stock market is affected. The housing market doesn't just change at the drop of the hat instantly like the stock market can. But if there are huge and consistent drops and effects to the stock market that we're seeing in association with this conflict in Ukraine, then keep in mind that over the next couple weeks, next couple of months, we're going to see that slowly start to hit the real estate industry. We know that people who invest in stock, they're very cautious and very careful with that investment. That's why when, at the very beginning, a few days ago when the Russians first invaded Ukraine, you saw a pretty hefty drop in the stock market because a lot of people were scared, not knowing what was going to happen, so they just withdrew and got out of the market. Now, what did happen though is that it rebounded. It came back and the stock hasn't quite consistently dropped as it could have if we were about to see a recession or if things were really dropping. So what that tells me is that the real estate market is going to be okay. It's going to stabilize. It's not going to drop and go into this big housing market recession that we did see 15 years ago. Now, if the economy does go into a recession, and I'm not saying that at this stage still isn't possible, that could still very much happen. If the economy goes into a recession, then we are likely going to see a lag in real estate soon to follow after that. But right now, judging by what has happened so far and the trends that we're seeing, it seems like real estate hasn't and likely won't be affected. Now, that could change pretty quickly depending on how the US and NATO reacts to this ongoing conflict with Russia and Ukraine. I know that recently they were meeting, Russia and Ukraine, to kind of discuss terms and try to find some sort of negotiational way to get out of this, but I don't think anything is going to come of that. But so that could change. We could definitely see some big changes in the next couple months, depending on how this all plays out. But what do we know right now? We know that due to the sanctions that the U.S. and the Western European countries are putting on Russia, we know that energy prices are going to increase. We know that inflation is increasing and is going to continue to increase more than it has been, and it already was increasing very quickly. And we know that interest rates are likely going to increase as well. They were already on the rise, and with these big increases that I just mentioned, interest rates are likely going to continue to increase to kind of help balance out the economy, balance out the situation that's going on right now. Just to wrap it up, what does this mean? Well, likely a lot of people are going to hold off on purchasing and selling real estate. That's probably going to be affected. A lot of people seeing this conflict, this world conflict going on, are thinking, you know what, it's probably better just to be cautious, to hold off on upgrading for a while. I'm just going to see how this plays out. So that's likely going to happen, which isn't going to have a huge effect on real estate, home prices, things like that. We're really just going to see people holding off for a few months, and likely in the summer and maybe the early fall months, considering, assuming that things aren't going to turn into this giant, huge World War III, then we're likely going to see things balance back out and real estate is going to continue to progress and stabilize and look really good. But we'll keep you updated. Subscribe to Mod Estate. Like the video, comment below what your predictions are with the Ukraine-Russia conflict and as it relates to real estate. What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to see some big drops in housing prices? Are we going to see a recession? Let me know below. We don't think it's going to be at this stage. It looks like things are okay, but we're curious to hear your thoughts. We'll see you on the next video.